balls. That's your salad, tomato and
Bro.
tomato and cucumber with ranch. Hello, welcome back to Goodfellas podcast, episode
17.
I'm Braden.
I'm Ethan.
I'm
Logan.
And today we're talking about David Fincher. On my screen, put David Fincher.
Fart nugget.
Jared, you have to have like ranking somewhere in this. So let's put that on Jared. Just ranking.
Just on me, cover me. In ranking.
Oh my god! And then on Ethan's just put filmography ? So we're gonna go through each of his movies chronologically up until The Killer that we probably won't talk about much because we just posted a video on it.
Watch it right here.
Logan?
right here.
The link will be right here. And then you can also catch it down below. Make sure to give this video a big like and smash that motherfucking subscribe button.
Like if you teabag that like button, don't do it.
Hit the like button if you're not a racist.
If you
Yeah.
can touch the like button with the tip of your wiener,
It'll grow 2 more inches. The first movie we're going to talk about is his debut, Rick Springfield, The Beat of the Live Drum from 1985. I'm the only one who's seen this, and I'm going to sum it up really quick, right? Who cares? I don't. I barely watched it. It was in the background. I literally just had it on, so I could 100% this guy. That's it. So
I
it's
hope
not-
to never watch it ever.
Anyways, I gave it a 4 out of 10. Movie number 2, what we all consider to be his real feature film debut because
This
it
is
is.
his real number one.
Alien
God.
3 from 1992.
Alien
Who wants
Q.
Alien.
I
Yeah.
love this movie.
I gave it a 3 out of 10, and it's 12 out of 12 on my list.
And I gave it a 4. Number 12 out of 12.
I gave it a 4.5 out of 10, and it's 12 out of 12.
I gave it 1 out of 10, and it is dead last.
We all agree that this is his worst movie. Who would like to start us off in conversation?
Give me a second, small one. I know we don't care that much, but I'm going to go in deep. This is the third Alien film, okay? You've got one from Ridley Scott, one from James
Not
Cameron.
the first, not the second, but the third.
Number 3.
Both of them, the last two, really good. And I think that's all due to the directors, because the plot is the exact same. All 3 times. His first feature, not good. He did not do great. Like, the directing sucks shit. It's a shitty story. I think James Cameron is so, like, Aliens is so good because James Cameron made it interesting. Alien 3, it shows it's the exact same movie because the directing is poop and it's just the same shit.
I was gonna say I don't know how much it has to do with Fincher though.
I do not
No.
count it as a David Fincher movie, but it's forced to be here and talked about. I'm the one who's watched the franchise recently. I hate the Alien franchise a lot. I understand the first one's greatness, because that one is a slow burn, and it's awesome, right? But I didn't care. The second one was awful. It takes the first one and makes it like an action movie, and that's really cool, but I don't care, and the dialogue was really shit. Alien 3 comes along, and I was ready to kill myself. It sucks, okay? It has nothing to do with the Alien franchise. They just tried to make it go longer, and in doing that, they failed so hard.
Aliens at least has a reason to exist. After that, it's like, oh, this is a franchise. Let's shit out more. So then, like, the studio forces some random ass first-time director who ends up being David Fincher, and then they're like, here, take this piece of shit and do it.
That's exactly what I said.
Ethan, what do you have to say about Alien Cubed?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like Logan says. Well, even Fincher has talked about himself. He disowns this movie. It's just like a shitty script someone wrote, and then they handed it to Fincher and said, hey, good luck, kiddo. Yeah. And you know what? It is a very good-looking movie. I think it looks great.
No, one thing I am going to say about that, though, is there's a lot of, like, practical effects in that movie, like, that they carry on. But the third one, at, like, the worst times, decided to do CGI Alien. Yeah. Fucking horrendous.
Oh, my God.
I think you can watch the look of this movie degrade over time. Like, it just keeps getting worse. Because, like, the first, like, 15 minutes or so, I just watched it. It looks fucking incredible. I'm like, and then
what's
it keeps
interesting
going.
is they don't use the CGI alien until the last like arc of the movie. Bad movie.
Yeah.
And I like that we can all agree on that.
There's a whole audience that likes it, so that's very
That's
interesting.
what's interesting.
Yep.
That is interesting.
It's just dumb. It's a dumb movie.
I think the head would go. Dude, I'm
No
not
way.
watching
You
this
gotta
stream.
keep on
What
this.
are we doing?
It's important. It's topical.
Here comes that feeling, you should never let it go. Carry
Oh,
that
wow.
feeling, the flag is raised, baby, the glory's to the throne. It's just beginning, we're winning.
Wow, that was.
I didn't get that at all. Now, get this. That was like his feature debut, right? 3 years later, in 1995, this guy drops 7.
It's wild.
Unreal.
It's
An
that's
unreal
crazy.
comeback. I gave 7 a 9.5 out of 10, and it's 4 out of 12 on my list.
I watched it a long time ago. I gave it an 8 back then, but that rating doesn't matter anymore. I have it at number 5 out of 12 on my list.
You're
A
done for today.
9.5 out of 10, and I have it at my number 1. I think that's his best movie.
I put it at a 9 out of 10. It's number 4.
It's an unbelievable comeback from Alien 3. This is the movie that put him on the map. Still is, to this date, one of the best detective thrillers of all time.
It is his only film that I think could go on my favorites one day. Thoroughly enjoy it. I love the 7 Deadliest Things thing. It's grim and it's disturbing, and the build-up's great, and I love it so much, and it all leads to that finale. The end is just so good. It's just perfect. The message transcends the movie, and it just makes us recognize that hell's imminent and we're all going to be tortured for eternity.
That's metal as fuck.
He's so good at making these thrilling, dark atmospheres with like all his movies. It's not just this one. Seeing that this is where that kind of started, if we're not counting Alien 3, this man knew his shit and like perfected his dark thing.
I also haven't seen it in a really long time, but the difference is that I wrote an essay on it. I like got into this. I studied the shit out of this movie. I don't know if it's because I've done so much. I've looked into it and I've written like a multi-paragraph long review at some point that it has stuck with me as much as it has. But I will say at this moment, I remember most of it more than I do Gone Girl, which I have seen more recently, but it's higher on my list. I agree. I could totally see it at a 5 at some point. The atmosphere of this movie is absurd.
Crazy.
It's just so brilliant. Like, oh my god.
I think this is the second or third Fincher I've seen, which sets it back a long time ago. Like, I seen this so long ago. There were moments where I kind of was losing interest and then got back. It was kind of like, I don't know, an ebb and flow with my watching. Since that, I have remembered a lot about it. Like, it's stuck with me, even though I didn't adore it on my first watch. And from what I've like seen and heard after my watch, I'm pretty damn sure this is a top 3 Fincher for me. I just need to rewatch it.
I'm gonna raise it. I'm giving it 3rd place.
Jared, I'm surprised you haven't given a Fincher movie a 10.
I haven't seen any of them three times, so.
Oh my.
That run that it had on TikTok was brutal.
What did TikTok do to it?
Yeah.
It made it a film bro movie.
Honestly, Braden, I think you should just embrace it all at this point. And your favorite directors, Christopher Nolan.
Just gotta take it.
Accept that you are.
Look in a mirror,
Film bro.
Braden.
Yes, but Prisoners was a
Yeah.
10 before it became a film bro movie. Okay, for movie number 4, this came out 3 years later in 1997, The Game.
That'd be 2 years later.
I gave it an 8.5, and it's 8 out of 12 on my list.
I gave it a 7 out of 10, and it's number 10 on my list of 12.
I gave it a 7.5, and it's 8 out of 12.
I gave it a 7 out of 10, and it's 9 out of 12.
I think it's still such a good movie for what it is. Ethan, you didn't like The Destination.
I think it is a great movie up until the third act, and it completely falls apart for me. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it, and I don't like it. As a big twist, it just made the whole thing fall flat. I do want to say, Fincher's direction here, like in 7, it's in full force. After 7, he's crazy. Again, beautiful looking, has a really thick atmosphere, and I love the mystery of it. Just the third act, where it leads.
I am on the side that likes the last act. I think it works really well, but I can see why people don't like it. And I think that's kind of what everyone can do. People can see why it's good and why it's bad.
I actually think you're a dumbass if you like the third act.
Again, another really great mystery thriller.
I think same with 7. There's big emphasis on the end because once again it's a big lead up, but this is nothing like 7, and this does it so differently. Like that third act start when you're like what the fuck's going on? And he's running through that building and he's seeing everyone he's met before. That's cool, and I liked how he kills himself. The minute he hits the bag, he's instantly mood changed. He's like, forget about it. Like, oh my god, so good to see you. It makes no sense to me, and it just leaves me on like a fuck.
And the thing that the part that makes
that is the one thing that stopped that movie from being like a 9 to a top Fincher. Because I like the end. When that twist happens, I'm fine with it. But when our main character is fine with it, I was kind of like, what the fuck? How are you not like blowing these people's head off? I wanted him to be a human being and get mad that they bitched him out twice.
Right.
Other than that,
It's
though,
like
I like the
insane.
twist. It's just his reaction to the twist that got me.
But I still feel like the earlier part, before it was revealed, I like the idea, the concept of like, we're gonna fuck up your life. We're gonna get in your life and just make it a puzzle. That's really awesome. I think it could have been done a little bit better. Sometimes it's a little goofy, but it's a good concept, and I think it has some great scenes leading up to the end.
I think it's a really solid middle Fincher.
I think one of the biggest things that makes it middle Fincher, it has aged just in everything. How it's presented and everything, and then it's sandwiched in between the films that it's sandwiched in between,
Yeah.
and it's like it feels weird.
it feels like a transition movie, but the full transition is just not a thing because the next movie after is just completely different.
Yeah.
It's super weird. No, I feel like if the game came before 7, then that's a nice transition.
That would
Better
be-
transition.
The game really feels like his first feature. Like it's mind blowing that 7 is his first feature,
Yeah.
and the game isn't.
Up next is one of the best movies of all time from 1999, Fight Club. Okay, I have Fight Club at a 10 out of 10, and it's number 1 out of 12.
I also have Fight Club at a 10 out of 10, and it is number 1 on my Fincher list.
I have it a 9 out of 10, and it's number 2 on my Fincher list.
I
That's
have
you.
it at 10 out of 10. It is number 1 on my Fincher's list.
This movie's undeniably one of the best of all time. There's not a whole lot that we can really say that people already don't know.
Well, for the longest time, it was my favorite movie of all time.
Please don't.
Edward Norton's character, we share a lot of similarities.
I'm Meatloaf.
That is not a fat suit, by the way. He actually had those big tits.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Perfectly
Facts.
crafted in every way. The twist gets me every time. It's just fucking awesome.
What I said in our review is it's nonsensical, confusing, distorted, and a trashed movie. But it's like all meant to be that way. That's its aesthetic. It's grimy, and that's just how it was made to be. There's like a beauty in that, which is weird. And then plus the story, which is really solid but so unconventional. It's such a dense movie. There's so many things about it that are crazy. And I wrote a whole Bible for my review because it's just such a fucking big movie to talk about. I don't think it's at a 10 level. It's still like it's warped. It's hard to really be like, yes, this is perfect, because it's meant to feel so weird. It's an awesome movie. The twist is fucking wild. One of the best twists of all time.
Such a crazy twist that like it spawned countless ripoffs.
Or the second or third time I watched it, whatever it was, knowing the twist didn't diminish anything at all. It actually made it better because you catch more things, and that's why I think it's that type of movie where the more you watch it, the more you catch on to.
It's incredible.
It never diminishes over time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even before I watched it for the first time, like I already knew about the twist, and even then it became my favorite movie of all time. It just shows how fucking great and insane this movie is.
That scene at the end of the movie with the "Where Is My Mind" needle drop, top fucking 3 endings ever. That scene almost brought me to tears for some reason, and I have no idea why. It's the perfect needle drop. I'd probably put it number 1, and I'd have no problem with that.
Yeah, the whole movie's just like perfectly organized chaos. Fight Club doesn't really feel like a Fincher movie. One of the things that characterizes Fincher for me is the meticulous, like, slow shots and like the pacing, like just holding on a shot and just like letting it perfectly play out.
I think the only thing that really blows us up as a Fincher is the atmosphere, the griminess of it all.
Yeah, exactly. Like some ways the shots are composed, like the way the story is told and everything else. It feels so much like a departure.
It still works in his filmography.
Yeah, 100%.
I prefer the more organizedness of 7.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say.
That's fair.
All right, with movie number 6, this came out 3 years later. It's a step down for sure. We're talking Panic Room 2002. I gave it a 7.5, and it's 9 out of 12 on my list.
I gave it a 7.5, and it's also 9 on my list.
I gave it an 8.5, and it's 5th on my list.
I gave it a 7, I think, and it's 8 on my list.
It's bottom of the middle Fincher. It's nothing insane. It's just a really good movie. I went into this with no high hopes or anything, just to watch a movie, but I came out like in the middle. Like I just watched a good movie.
The game, like, it makes sense as a transition in terms of, like, because there's some crazy ass shit that goes down and how it's filmed, you know. And then Fight Club is like, he follows it up with Panic Room, which is this like really tight, like it's one location, small thing. Like it's very clearly him sharpening his like perfectionist edge again. It seems like it's a build up to what he's doing next.
I think maybe my expectation was like, okay, this is going to be nothing. And then it really surprised me. It was just very good. I think the best word to use is efficient. It uses its time very well. One location the whole time. I always thought it was going to get stuck somewhere. And then it just kept finding a new way to keep me interested, finding a new way to expand the plot. And it was just really commanding, and I loved it.
Even though it is lower in my list, I think people still underrate this movie a lot. This movie, it's so good. It would be the majority of directors' best movie. The way the camera is moving throughout this house, it takes so much skill to make one location not boring for a certain amount of time.
And like, so interesting too.
Oh
like,
yeah. And I just think about that shot.
Great layout in your head.
Just think about that one shot that just goes throughout the whole house and it's like going through glass and shit. It's so cool.
The characters are really well done as well. Burnham surprised me. Like, this guy goes on a whole arc just standing outside of a panic room. Like, it amazed me how I want the women to get out. Like, I really want them to succeed and live. By the end, I do not want Burnham to get hurt, but I don't know how you have both of them come out good, and it's really interesting how it plays. So I loved it.
The only reason, Jared, your rating upsets me is because you put it above
The next one?
Yeah. So speaking of the next one, this is 5 years later this movie came out. Zodiac. I have it at a 9.5, and it's 5 out of 12.
I have it at a 9 out of 10. It is number 3.
I have it at an 8 out of 10, and I have it at number 7.
Because of Jared's 8 out of 10 review, I raised it to a 10, and it is
A bitch.
2 out of 12. It's my second favorite. So close to putting it above Fight Club. And I was like, no, I can't put it above Fight Club. But this film has had like a very strong hold on me for a long time. And it also coincides, there's this YouTuber that I watched, and he made this video on Jack the Ripper. It was like a detailed thing on how each murder of Jack the Ripper happened. And it felt very clear. Jack the Ripper maybe killed like 2 people, and the rest was all copycats because everything just fell apart and was weird. I had seen Zodiac like maybe a week or 2 before that had come out, and it had me thinking about Zodiac. Personally, the guy John Carroll Lynch, I think that's that's the actor. It's like very, very clear to me that he's in literally no way the Zodiac. It's based on Jake Gyllenhaal's character's book. Like the real guy made a book, and he is super obsessive, and he gets it in his head that John Carroll Lynch's character Arthur Lee is the Zodiac killer. The rest of the film is portrayed with that, and the book is portrayed with this guy's insane obsession that it's him. So everything seems like it is him, but there's stuff that it can't be him. And I personally don't think that it's him.
No, Logan, that was awesome. I've never thought of it that way. We have no idea. It's an unsolved case, which is shocking that this movie just goes straight at it, that he's it. You're right. There's a lot of signs saying it's him. Like when he has that interaction, all signs point to it must be him, like, clearly. I'd separate the story from the film. Like, I love the idea of the Zodiac Killer a lot. A lot of this is a really good movie, but it's great. It's really good story, really good stuff. It's just not that stellar.
I think you're wrong. I think this movie
Okay.
fits.
Okay.
I think that it's a high Fincher very easily, and it connects very well with the rest of his top movies. The way this movie's made always just amazes me. How it's fairly long, but it gets a lot done in the runtime, and I feel like
it just goes the whole time.
that's right, and it doesn't stop, and that's why I think it's so good. When these movies are made, they tend to get dull here and there if they're trying to make these long stories and whatever. I think Seven and Zodiac are very equal when it comes to their like similar subject matter.
That's apples to oranges, man. That's prunes to
No.
plums.
I almost don't. I mean, it is, but I almost don't see Zodiac as a crime thriller. Obviously, it is. But it's a really comprehensive look on so many things. And what I find most interesting is not about the killer, but Jake Gyllenhaal's crazy obsessive character. I don't know if my reading on it is intentional. And that's what I love so much about Zodiac. It's a incredible crime thriller, but there's also so much more that it has to say about it within the film.
1 year after Zodiac, he dropped The Curious Case of Benjamin Button in 2008. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10, and it's 10 out of 12.
I gave it a 4.5 out of 10, and I have it 11th out of 12.
I gave it an 8 out of 10, and it's 6 out of 12 for me.
I gave it a 4 out of 10, and it is in 10th spot out of 12.
Jared, start us off, because you're a fucking numbskull.
Oh, contraire, mon frere. You guys are all idiots. You guys are heartless human beings. I'm so sorry it's not up to caliber for you. I'm so sorry it's not Fight Club. This movie is amazing. It's
Jared,
beautiful.
don't give in to Oscar bait challenge.
It's heartfelt, and it has a really amazing concept that
I'm gonna
is
stop you there.
done
Hold on.
quite
Hold on.
well. Shut
I'm
up.
gonna stop
That
you
is
right there.
done-
No.
shut up.
Trust me.
I'm speaking. It's just a great story that goes into a romance and just a remarkable life. Just a great movie.
I like this movie. I don't think it's an awful movie. The only reason I'm saying I like it is because it was kind of fun to watch. I think it was physically impossible, and it always will be, to connect to this movie at all on an emotional level. I think it's so ridiculous and dumb. It was such an interesting movie watching this guy age backwards. Not 1 minute during the movie could I feel anything at all.
That's crazy. That's mind-blowing. Throw a heart, dude. What the hell? It's the possibility of, okay, what if this one day this guy was born and he's aging backwards? It's just done in such an amazing way.
But I also don't think it was done well at all. I think it's so fucking ridiculous. I couldn't grasp onto anything and hold myself there. It was just interesting to watch, and that's why I liked it.
I think this is one of the classic cases of a film not working as a film. This is a book. This needs to stay a book.
Yeah.
It never needs to be a movie. We do not need to see this old man baby. Watching it does not work. It's just goofy as fuck. And I don't agree with you, Brayden, saying it's fun to watch, because I was so bored. It's like almost 3 hours long, and it's so boring, and I don't have any connection to this, and I'm just seeing right through it.
That's what's so crazy is that I had fun with it, but I hated it. That's why it's such a weird movie for me.
I had a pretty interesting time with this movie, so I could only get it in 720p, and it was pretty compressed 720. I had a fun little game when he was all old baby. I had to like view through the pixels to see what he looked like, and I was like, this feels really bizarre, but I can't tell. Like, it was a fun little game in that respect. And then it keeps going, and then it still keeps going.
And when she's rocking in the chair with a baby Brad Pitt, just like waiting for him to die, it's so goofy, bro.
That shit was okay. I agree with Ethan that this should have stayed a book I was never gonna read anyway. That's kind of what drew me out of connecting with it. This little baby old guy was so fucking ridiculous, dude. Okay, the ending actually almost kind of got me, not because I was connected, but just because it was a long journey and I was happy to be done with it. Like Ethan said, that bitch rocking the baby she once fucked took every emotional bit out of me, and I laughed. I laughed out loud, and I laughed harder when I found out you like that. She fucked this baby, dog.
I agree, and I'm it's hard
She's
to
rock.
say.
She's
I'm not gonna
rocking
say I
this
don't
baby to
disagree.
death.
That part, always hits me as like like back in my mind. But I'm like, I'm not gonna go into that because like I love it too much. I just think it's just so sweet. And it's like
Problematic
Forrest
Jared
Gump.
episode.
It's like Forrest Gump, okay? And there's this beautiful human named Benjamin. So sweet how it plays out and the people he meets and the romance and how it grows and eventually they switch and he's going backwards and she's going this way and it's just lovely.
That's why it works so good as a book, because I could totally okay, that's kind of interesting, but watching it happen, it's kind of like a prank. It feels like a prank, like I'm getting pranked.
I really connect to this movie. Like I have a big connection to this movie, which blows my mind why you can't. It just puts time in such a weird perspective. Kate Blanchett, when she's old and is in the nursing home, it's like she's on her deathbed and she's reminiscing. It just, I don't know, it hits home. I connect to it, which I think is mind-blowing that you can.
It's watchable. I feel like it's kind of watchable. It is way too long, way too long. There were times where I was watching it and I was like kind of engaged. You'd hear the old lady start talking, and it would cut to modern day, and I just skipped. I skipped a couple of those
You
scenes.
didn't
just
watch
flat
the
out.
movie, Logan.
Movie number 9, he dropped The Social Network.
Oh,
I have it at a
Do it.
9.5 out of 10 and a 3rd out of 12.
I have it as a 10 out of 10, and it is number 2 on my list.
I gave it a 9 out of 10, and it's 3rd on my list as well.
I also gave it a 9, and it's 5th out of 12.
This, to me, is the Fincher movie. This movie exemplifies everything that works about Fincher for me. The meticulous cinematography. It has that incredible soundtrack by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. I think it's one of the best scores of the 2010s. Just the fascinating power dynamics that make a great Fincher film. The script is brilliant.
Aaron
Just
Sorkin.
probably his best
Love that.
script. Probably his best script. I'm saying it right now. Jesse Eisenberg, his best performance ever. Like it's
Easily.
perfectly
Very
casted.
easily.
Perfectly casted. Fucking Justin Timberlake's in this movie and he's incredible.
Very, very, very easily a top 3 biopic of all time. I think if you give this script to any fucking numbskull loser, it would not have worked as well as it did.
I'm shocked. I like this a lot. It was a 7 for the longest time. I was like, oh, screw The Social Network. I don't even care.
That's brutal.
But I went back to it, and oh my God, it was just so good. Aaron Sorkin is amazing. He is so capable. And I think he is such a great writer. The way they did this non-linearly just worked so well. Like, you're right. They made Facebook into something so interesting and just watchable. I don't think it's perfect, though. For one, I think it was just like a lot of back and forth editing. Now, I don't know a lot about my editing. We know that. Just like it always just kept being like, okay, 2 people are sitting next to each other and it just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, which I just found really weird. Jesse Eisenberg, he's great in this movie. This is definitely his best performance. It is amazing. But it's whenever he acts, it's Jesse Eisenberg. It's not a character, it's Jesse Eisenberg. And so when you're playing a big person like Mark Zuckerberg,
But that's
anytime
what
I've
makes
seen
it so
Mark-
good.
Like, props to the casting people. He does a really good job at just being Mark Zuckerberg, even though I think it's Jesse Eisenberg. It doesn't scream at me, oh, this is Mark Zuckerberg. It screams at me, oh, this is the
No, I
guy who
get
made
that.
Facebook from The Social Network.
I actually fully agree with that. And it is the reason why when I first watched it, I gave it, I think, either a 7 or an 8. I can't remember. He's my number 1 most punchable face. Even though he is such an asshole, it took me a lot to love this movie for what it is because I hate him so much.
It's kind of awesome that we do hate our main character the entire time because he's such a fucking dick. Mark
Everybody-
Zuckerberg, I don't give a shit about the real life Mark Zuckerberg. He's a guy who exists.
Famous reptilian.
This, I'm gonna say, version of Zuckerberg is so fucking interesting. Also, we didn't say, but Andrew Garfield in this movie.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield is so good.
incredible.
Like he's just a great
Yeah.
actor.
He is a great actor.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite performance of his, but
Yeah.
it's right
What's
there.
your favorite performance
Right.
of his?
Hacksaw Ridge. All right, moving on to this movie came out 1 year later. It's kind of weird how he did this. He did it twice where he drops one movie and then a movie a year after. Kind of awesome.
Yeah, I
Good
know,
for
right?
him. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo 2011. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10 and I have it 6 out of 12.
I also gave it an 8.5 and also have it 6 out of 12.
I gave it a 7.5, and I have it 9 out of 12.
I have it at 8, and it's at 7 out of 12.
I know in my Killer review I said that The Killer was top middle Fincher, but this movie's insane. It's just another really perfectly crafted Fincher movie. I see a lot of people, and I don't know if you guys feel the same, but the pacing is its biggest issue.
This is one of those I haven't seen in a long time, but I remember it kind of dipping in the middle for briefly.
That's what I was last night, which is like I didn't want to revisit it for some reason, even though I needed to. I didn't really want to. And then I got like 10 minutes in. From then on, I was just locked into this movie. I want to read the book because I know it has sequels, and the movie ends in such a weird way where it sets up sequels. I love the characters. The mystery is great. The reveal is great.
It sucks that the sequels couldn't get made. It was planned to be a trilogy. Like that.
Right.
That's what Fincher planned to do. There's a Swedish trilogy.
Yeah, I know. I saw
Yeah.
that.
It would have benefited from being a trilogy. The start is really solid. Everything with Lisbeth and everything going on there, awesome. She's a really cool character.
She's probably #1 girl boss of all time.
Beyond that, everything else mellows out for me. And it goes somewhere with Stellan Skarsgård. You know, the twist happens. It just does nothing for me. It's his #1 movie that just has not stuck with me. It just left me immediately.
I don't really even feel a sense of connection between the two at all.
It's
Yeah,
low.
that's very true.
That's what a lot of people say.
There's not a large gap in my ranked list between this and The Killer, but I prefer The Killer so much. It kind of sounds like I don't like it, but I did like it. It just doesn't stick with me.
It's one of those movies that I fucking love to watch that I just don't think about ever again until I rewatch it next time. All right, moving on. This is probably his first or second most popular movie ever. 2014's Gone Girl. I'm going to start us out with a rating.
Get excited, boys. Yeah.
I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. It's 2 out of 12.
Mine is a 9 out of 10, and it is my 4th out of 12.
Ditto.
Smokes.
It's 9 out of 10, 4th out of 12.
Mine is 9 out of 10, 4th out of 12.
Besides maybe The Social Network, this movie has a higher potential of being one of my 10s. My first watch of this movie wasn't great, and then I rewatched it. Something on that second watch was just an unreal experience. It's just another incredibly well-crafted thriller. Amy Dunn is very easily one of the best characters, antagonists of all time. She killed that shit. Are you kidding me? I think it's Logan's review that said it's weird that this movie made me cheer for Ben Affleck. That's in your review, and that hits like a fucking semi-truck. Because she is such an evil, evil woman. He's like not a whole lot better, but what she did was evil. She's such a good antagonist. And I was cheering for Ben Affleck. It's kind of incredible that a movie can do that.
Like, this is kind of what Jared and I were talking about in our Killer review. His plots aren't really matching up to his filmmaking. This movie, his perfect filmmaking with the script that is like...
Yeah.
Equally insanely well written. Fincher is really good with sound. Like his club scenes, and there's a scene in Gone Girl. Ben Affleck is like talking to himself while the sink is running in the bathroom. The levels of the water running, it's so well done and realistic.
I could give you an essay. I left that movie thrilled, fucking ecstatic. That was just so, it was so good. It is such a good psychological thriller, and it's such a good mystery as well. Like on your first watch, you don't know what to believe. The ball keeps rolling. You're like, okay, is Affleck did he actually do it? What's going on here? It makes you question things, and I love it. And then how it goes into this character of Amy Dunn. She's a crazy bitch. This woman is fucking wild. Rosamund Pike plays it so well. She is so hot. She's such a good character. The ending is so amazing because it's like, all right, the narrative has taken our story, and now it's just they have to live in this awful marriage that is just loving each other's fake personalities. Sedan says it best in her review. She said #gaslit gatekeep girl boss, and that's just straight up.
Like, everything about this movie is so phenomenal, and yet she is like...
Good movie.
Really good movie.
Yeah.
Me when
That's
Gone
okay.
Girl dropped Gone Girl, and then 6 years later he drops Mank 2020.
Well, yeah,
I
but in
gave it-
between there, he was doing Mindhunter.
I gave it a 6.5 out of 10, and it's 11 out of 12.
I gave it an 8 out of 10, and it is 7 out of 12.
I gave it also a 6.5 out of 10, and it is 11.
It's at 11 out of 12. It's definitely not worse than Alien Cubed.
I think Jared chose the right route on watching this movie where he watched Citizen Kane directly before. For some reason, when I watched it, it was a while after I first watched Citizen Kane. When I put this movie on, I did it because it was Fincher and it was about Citizen Kane. And I didn't care at all. It's Gary Oldman who puts on a fantastic performance. It all comes down to that I just didn't care about any of it. I didn't care about the story.
The story sucks. Like, it's not your fault that you didn't care, because the story is just so made to be uninteresting. Like, it's about the times, and it's about Mankiewicz as a person and what's going on around that time, and it's not anything that involves you. It doesn't really get you into it.
Okay, Ethan,
Whatever,
you go,
man.
because you gave this a high rating for some fucking reason.
Well, I watched this the night it came out. I watched Citizen Kane a few months before, and I love Citizen Kane. Just leading up to the release of this movie, I remember I was so fucking hyped. Like, the trailer's so awesome. I was just very excited about a Fincher movie made about Hollywood. It's less about Hollywood than I thought. It's very interesting hearing your guys' opinions about it and kind of like the whole consensus on the film. I wonder if I rewatch it, I'll like it less. When I watched it, it started off a bit rough. Like, I wasn't, it took me a while to get into it. At some point, I got into it, and I was into it for the whole thing beyond that. I just really liked how committed it was to its style. Like, it even had...
The style is really good.
Yeah, like black and white. Even the sound was kind of muffled. He put like the little thing in the corner every so often for when you change reels.
I saw that.
Oh,
Yeah, just cool stuff like that. Like, that just really kept me engaged throughout the whole thing. It's not top tier Fincher by any means. For me, this is very mid Fincher.
You should rewatch it.
I should.
I will rewatch this at some point. It's like a film that's very hard for me to want to rewatch. I'm pretty sure I watched half of it and then got really tired. And then went to the bathroom, came back, and watched the entirety of Into the Spider-Verse, and then finished Mank. I hadn't actually seen Citizen Kane before I saw this movie. I didn't really know much about Orson Welles. Like, I knew his name, and I knew he did, like, the War of the Worlds thing. But, like, I didn't know shit about him. It's pretty awesome. But I'd be interested in watching it again, because the more that I watch of Orson Welles, the more I'm so deeply fascinated by him, like a little bit obsessed.
I was just more enamored with the filmmaking the whole time, as opposed to the characters.
Like,
All right,
no.
bad movie. After that movie, he came out with The Killer, which we have a review out, so just watch that. I'm not going over anything else about that movie.
Watch it right here. A link. There's a link right here.
No, why would we just put it in, there, and then...
Try to lick that like button.
I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. It's 7 out of 12.
I gave it a 7.5 out of 10, and it is 8 out of 12.
Since I got bullied in the review, I dropped it down to a 7 out of 10, and it's 10 out of 12.
I gave it an 8, and it's 6 out of 12. I think it's great. And if you want to know what we think about it, you can go watch that fucking review.
But yeah, this is the end of the Fincher episode. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you guys for watching.
Check out
Thanks.
that like button.